who I am, who I was, and who I will be is worthy of love. I'm going to cry. The best thing you can do for the world is to be better for yourself. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're watching for the very first time, hello, my name is Staecha. I go by Namaste on Instagram. So if you're interested in keeping up with my day-to-day life in Japan, definitely go ahead, consider following me over there on the gram. And while you're over there, if you ever decide to take a stop over there, show me some love by liking some of my pictures and stuff like that. Okay, so as you can see by the title of this video, I'm going to be doing something that's different. I'm starting a new segment, and I have thought about starting this segment for a very long time, but I have been holding back because it's something that I've been wanting to do, but I wasn't sure if my audience would be interested in something like this. After a couple weeks of careful consideration, I feel like I'm ready and open to start this new chapter, not only in my life but on my channel. So as you can see by the title of this video, I'm going to be starting a segment on this channel called Girl Chat. Now, the reason for starting this is, I guess, personal. For me, I'm very active on my social media, specifically my Instagram, and I post quite frequently. Some may argue too much, but we're not going to get into that. So I post quite frequently on my Instagram, and sometimes everyone who follows me sees what I post, and but what people don't see is the conversations that take place in my direct messages, my DMs. And a lot of times people reach out to me, whether congratulating me or, sharing their story, or they say to me that, I'm an inspiration to them. First of all, I appreciate all the compliments, the words of encouragement, the words of affirmation, and just the fact that people feel so comfortable opening up to me. I appreciate that. I personally do not consider myself to be a role model nor an inspiration. I know that I have a lot of work to do, a lot of growing up to do, and I can acknowledge that. So the fact that people in my state of construction can still find some inspiration in the unfinished edifice, so to speak, I'm humbled by that, and I felt the need to start this community of women who have certain discussions about just being a woman, femininity, and women making their way through life. So I wanted to start this girl chat series where I talk about certain things from a woman's perspective, and every now and again, hopefully the plan is to incorporate other females as well as a male here or there to offer a male perspective. It is not to bash or to diminish any gender, anyone for their preference, and so on and so forth. And I don't consider myself a connoisseur in life or relationship or anything of that nature. God knows I have a lot to learn. But I wanted to create an environment that engenders conversation about different ways of thinking and how we can move forward as women to live our best lives in all aspects of life. So today I thought I would start off with my own journey to self-love. So let's get into that. Before I get into that, usually when I'm doing sit down videos, I usually have something written down as a means of guidance so that I don't ramble or go off on too many tangents. But for this video, I didn't write anything down. I didn't even plan on filming today. So everything that you hear me say is genuinely coming from a place of authenticity and truth, and my own recollection of my journey from the beginning to this point. So let me just put that out there. So for me, I grew up in a medium-sized family. Both mother and father. I have 4 siblings, and I am the second of 5 kids. Growing up, he, ah, we're going to get real personal right now. For me, growing up, I've had my own fair share of insecurities, and I know that everyone has their own struggle, everyone has their own insecurities, and everyone is battling their own, war. So I don't want it to seem as if I'm saying that my story is worse than the next one. It's not. I'm aware of that. But at the same time, because your story isn't worse, the worst of the worst, doesn't negate the fact that you felt how you felt and you experienced what you experienced, and no one can ever take away your experience, and no one can ever take away my experiences and the feelings that I felt in those moments. So for me personally, while growing up, I was the second of 5. My older sister, she was like 9 years older than I was. Well, she is. It's not like it changes. She's 9 years older than I am. So there was a gap, I guess, in the earlier ages. Because I mean, if I'm 9 years younger than my sister, then there really isn't much that we can go off of. So I connected more with my brothers who I am 2 years older than, and we, for the most part, hung out together. And I live in the, I guess you would say, the country part of Jamaica. So for me, we had a lot of outdoor activities to be engaged in. So I was always hanging with the boys, and even the 2 other girls that they we weren't concerned about femininity at that point, and no one was saying, "Oh, you're a girl, so don't do this, don't dress like this, don't hang with the boys." We were out and about doing every single thing that the boys did, and I wish someone had stopped me to a certain extent, because I have so many scars on my legs, in particular, because of all my outdoor escapades. But there are certain things about the experiences that I had hanging with the boys that was foundational for me, that still is present in my adult life. I am not one of those girls who's afraid of lizards and bugs and all of that. You just won't catch me screaming and acting like a girly girl when something like that happens, when I'm in a situation like that. But I digress. So growing up, I was very skinny and tall. I was super, super, super scrawny. As scrawny as they come, that was me. If there was a Pictionary and the word scrawny was there, my picture would have been beside it. Scrawny. I was tall, and I had very big, bold eyes, and my ears were big. So I grew into my eyes and my ears. Thank you, Jesus, for the small mercies. So growing up, I had a lot of challenges during primary school. For my American friends, that's elementary school. So I had a lot of challenges navigating my way through primary school. And, girls being girls, they would tease left and right, especially when, they were jealous of you. So I was called the bold and the beautiful, and they made fun of my ears. And at that point, I financially, my parents weren't necessarily well off and weren't in a position to provide an abundance for us. So I would basically have the same meal daily. And I tell you, the circle of girls with whom I ingratiated myself at the time, whenever we had any falling out, they would be very quick to bring across their observations of what I ate and all of that. So I didn't grow up being a very confident person. I wasn't confident in my appearance. And I think for me, looking back, I didn't have my parents instilling any sort of confidence in me by way of words of affirmations. I didn't have my parents saying, "Oh, you're beautiful, you're smart, you're this, you're that, you're da 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 da." Uh, and I don't. as an adult woman, no, I don't really criticize them too much, because to a large extent, I feel that they weren't necessarily equipped with certain tools to help their children to navigate certain life experiences. And so, for the most part, while growing up, I didn't feel like I could go to my parents for sound advice. And I don't think they made themselves available when it came on to providing mentorship through those social tips that took place right throughout my life. And the funny story is, I never started any argument with any girls. I've never been the confrontational type. No, I've been known to have a piece of mouth on me, and to be very honest, I don't know how. I have not been slapped on the mouth, because sometimes my mouth can be my deadliest weapon. But I've never been the type to start an argument with girls. Even in high school, I just go to school on a Monday and they just decide that you're not talking to me. And I'm like, well, what did I do? You know, I'll be walking past girls with whom I was fine with on Friday and smile with them to greet them, and they're like, "Oh, she I smile with." And I'm like, where did all this come from? Where? I don't understand. Where did all this animosity come from? So I have a problem with females, but that's a whole other topic. So to stay on track. So I was tall and scrawny, and I had other things that were going on in my life, and I'm not ready to share that. I really don't share that particular thing that was happening. It wasn't any abuse, for someone who might assume that it was that. It wasn't any sexual abuse or anything like that. So no one was abusing me physically by raping me or molesting me or anything like that. Let me just put that out there. But there was this one thing that was a shackle in my life, and that for me, for years, messed with my perception of my worthiness and my acceptance of myself. So right throughout elementary/primary school, throughout high school, I had a lot of insecurities, self-doubt. I didn't accept the person I was. I didn't have anyone who offered any sort of mentorship that would provide me with the necessary tools to navigate through whatever I was feeling at the time. To make matters worse, I was a very late bloomer when it came on to puberty and all that came with that. I didn't start having chest until ninth or 10th grade. That was when I started blossoming. So I felt like a dude. And the other day I looked back at some picture and was like, yeah, I get why guys didn't like me, because I looked like one of them, and who wants to be with, unless you're gay, and who wants to be with another dude. So I had that struggle. I didn't see myself worthy, and I hung out with girls, and this is no fault of theirs, who made me feel insecure, especially when we would go out and I tried to make myself presentable, and we're out, two of us, three of us, four of us, and some guy would call to at least one of them at least once. No one called to me. That hurt my feelings. And I remember I have a cousin with whom I'm very close with. She's probably watching this. Hi girl. So she and I, we would go out, and she developed much faster than I did physically. And when we went out, every guy that called or looked our way was looking her way. And I just remember feeling like I was existing in a space where I was invisible. I wasn't seen. I wasn't seen attractive to anybody. And I looked for the validation from those instances, and I wasn't getting the validation. And so I didn't think I was attractive. No one at home taught me or told me that I was attractive. When I went on the road, the men weren't looking my way. So if all of these things are pointing to me being ugly, I must be very ugly. So for years, I would just think that, I'm ugly. And this is something that even my parents knew. I would cry myself to sleep for months. And I'm not even exaggerating. Like, I would cry every single night at some point, and that would have been how I fell asleep. I would fall asleep crying. And it took a lot out of me to get myself, ooh, girl, you're about to get emotional. Why? It took a lot out of me to come to a place in my life where I don't, one, seek the validation of others, two, to understand that who I am, who I was, and who I will be is worthy of love. I'm going to cry. Did not expect to cry. Hold on. Give me a second. It took a lot of really working on myself to get to this point. University was probably the worst of the worst because I think that was the peak of my depression, of me feeling unworthy and all of that. My university experience is an interesting one because I think when you grow up in a small community that I did, in a fairly small, medium-sized community slash town, you're only seeing basically one set of people. But then when you go to university, you are exposed to a lot of people from all walks of life. Now in Jamaica, for those who aren't Jamaicans watching this, in Jamaica, from basic school slash kindergarten through to high school, we all wear uniform. And so when you're wearing uniform, everyone looks the same. Only freedom that we had was to choose whichever shoe we want, as long as it was in the color that was stipulated by the school rule. So the shoe and the bag were the only thing that we had control over. Separate and apart from that, there was a level of uniformity, and so it was hard to distinguish who had it and who didn't. Fast forward to university now. I attended the University of the West Indies, which is considered to be a liberal school. Some faculties have uniforms, but for the most part, you essentially wore whatever you felt like wearing. So when you take a little poor girl from Linstead St. Catherine and plant her in a community, so to speak, where people from all walks of life, from the most opulent upper class person that you can think of, who's used to a certain level of lifestyle, to the lowest of the lowest, and you are now in an environment. I mean, I didn't go to university for the looks of it, I understand that, but as a human being, as a person, there's always, no matter what we say, there's always the feeling of wanting to belong. And I did not feel like I belong. I felt like an outcast for 3 years, as if the other years leading up to that wasn't bad enough. It was 3 years of feeling like, yo, I'm really poor, because I feel like university magnified just how much I didn't have. You see people, students rolling up in cars, being able to afford movies and going out to dinner and all of that, and you can hardly find money to print your assignment or money to eat lunch. So for me, I went through 3 years of real deep and serious depression. I felt like crap because I didn't have the money to keep up or to look fashionable. in a way that I wanted to. And so university was more about getting by, going to classes, doing the work, making sure that I keep the scholarship because I can't afford to not have this scholarship. Having this scholarship was already so hard, so I couldn't imagine going through university and having to find my way out financially in that aspect of life. So I tell people all the time that I've been alive for 26 years, but I've only been living for 4. The first 22 years, I mean, I don't want to say 22 because there was a period in which I had no consciousness of myself and all of that. So I won't say a full 22 years, but you get the point. So for the first 22 years of life, I was in this rut of I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm not beautiful, I'm not smart, I'm not sexy, I'm not. So how did I get to the point where I'm way more confident in myself, even on the days when I look in the mirror, I'm not pleased with everything that I see? I think what triggered the need for actual and real self-love for me was a dating experience with someone who I thought should have handled my heart with more care. And I just remember being at home one Saturday when my mom and my sister were gone to church, and I just started crying. I just started weeping. And it wasn't even that one person or that one situation that triggered it. It was like everything that I was going through or I had been through triggered this I don't know. I just started weeping, like crying. I couldn't breathe. I had to sit up. I couldn't help myself. And it was a moment where I had to have the hard conversation with myself and say, you have work to do, because this is not a life that I wish to continue for myself. This is not a space that I wish to exist in. So I have to get to a point and a place where I operate from a place of real self-love and to validate myself and not be so reliant on the validation of others. So what did I do? I took the time to read more books, and I read a book a month for a couple of years. Haven't done that this year. Don't ask why. But I've read a couple of books about manifestation, about positive thinking, and I began to get into the frame of mind of, you know what? Since when I look in the mirror, I'm not completely happy with what I see, I'm going to start to eat right. I'm going to start to exercise more consistently. I'm going to buy the hair and the skin products that I need to glow up in the way that I want. I'm going to dress myself the way I want to look. And that's when everything started to turn. So when I started working and I started earning my own money and I had that moment of breaking down, I realized that, in order to feel good, I also have to look good. And I didn't just invest in my physical appearance. Like I said, I read books and I did the work. No, I'm not going to say to you that there aren't days when I feel a hot mess and I feel very unattractive and all of that. But I am at the place in my life where I'm comfortable with who I am. I no longer walk with my head down because that was something I did for years. I walk with my shoulders high and I strut because life is a runway, baby. I had to turn up for myself. I had to love myself. And because I love myself doesn't mean that there isn't work to be done. But who I am, as I am, where I am, is enough. And that's something that I've had to come to the realization that the world can't give me what I can't give myself. And that's real talk. I cannot expect people to respect me, to love me, to validate me if I don't respect myself, love myself, and validate myself. So, like I said, this isn't necessarily a video where I am going to give advice to people, because, like I said, I don't think I'm in a position to do so. But what I can say is, if a lot of us in this world loved ourselves more, then a lot of the places, a lot of the things that we do and say to each other and to ourselves would sound different and would look different. Before you can demand people to turn up for you, you need to turn up for yourselves. And I feel like a lot of us as women, we go out seeking love from people, and because we don't know what self-love is, we are unable to identify when a person doesn't truly love us. And I just wanted to do this video to encourage women and men alike that it is very, very, very important to understand your value and your worth as a person. And if it is that you do not understand your value and your worth, people are going to walk all over you. And everything about your existence, from your aura to the way you carry yourself to the way you speak, will say that even before you admit that. So I think if we are serious about the work, serious about the business of operating from a place of power and truth and honesty, then we will speak differently, we will act differently, we will dress differently, and you won't even have to ask, because you can always tell when a person is operating from a place of power. And for me, I'm operating more from a place of power. And like I've said throughout this video, there's still more work to be done. I'm fully aware of that. But I am not the person I was at 16 years old. I am not the person I was at 20 years old. I'm not the person I was at 22 years old. I'm not the person I was 24 years old. So I've seen the growth and the progress that I have made. My friends can tell you, especially the male friends with whom I've had for many, many years in my corner. They've seen the growth. And when you think about it, when I think about it just now, there were people who told me that I was beautiful, my male friends specifically. And none of that, I couldn't internalize any of that, because when they said that to me, I was like, what? No. And I realized that if you don't see it, it doesn't matter how much the Tom, Dick, Harry, his friend, and all his cousins tell you how beautiful you are. If you do not see it, believe it, then it's going to be falling on deaf ears. Okay, guys, so I hope that this video kind of give you a little more insight about me. I'm going to be doing girls chat maybe once every 2 weeks. If this is something that you're interested in, the comment bar below, let me know what you think. I have a list of topics that I want to do. This is the first one that I chose to introduce the segment with. I thought this would be the perfect video to set the tone for the rest of the series that I continue to do. If you haven't already, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Let me know in the comment bar below, your story to self-love, your truth. How did you get here? Did you always love yourself? Did you have to overcome some of the challenges that I did in order to get to where you are right now? And if you aren't, what's holding you back? So guys, I think this is the end of the video. Hopefully it won't be too long. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.